Hi, I'm Probationary Firefighter Porn. Today I'm going to go over a quick 4-point on the MS660 Chainsaw here at Fire Station 261 in the city of Redlands. Some safety items to consider. We're going to wear our proper PPE, including helmet, gloves, eye protection, hearing protection, turnout coat, and bunker pants. As well as in a wildland fire environment, we're going to utilize chainsaw chaps. Moving on, we're going to make sure that we use caution when cutting overhead. We're going to make sure we maintain proper footing, a nice athletic stance. We're going to make sure that we wrap our thumb all the way around the wrap handle. This ensures that we'll engage the STIHL quick stop chain brake if kickback doesn't occur. Kickback is a situation where the saw kicks back into you. Situations that can cause kickback are rolling rafters, cutting with the top of the bar, and situations which bind the chain. Moving on to nomenclature and specifications about the saw. This is a 2-stroke, single-cylinder, air-cooled engine with a spark plug that's gapped at 0.5 millimeters. This will be checked every time the spark plug is changed. The saw runs on 50-to-1 pre-mixed fuel. We use top fuel here. That means for every 1 gallon of gasoline, there's 2.6 ounces of oil mixed in with that to lubricate the engine. We also use STIHL bar oil or 10W38 will work. The saw has a 3-piece air filter consisting of a felt outer layer, a metal mesh, as well as a plastic frame. This saw in particular has a throttle trigger and a throttle trigger interlock. The throttle trigger only works when the throttle trigger interlock has been depressed with the palm of your hand. The housing is made of polymer. It is lightweight and provides increased drop resistance, impact resistance, as well as it's corrosive resistant as well. The master control lever here, located on the back of the saw, this lets us control idle, on, off, full throttle, full choke, and half choke. Moving on from there to our wrap handle here, and that leads us into our STIHL quick stop chain brake, as well as our front hand guard. This we can activate manually like this, or with inertia from kickback. Moving on to our bumper spikes here, or dogs. These are used for precision cuts when we're falling trees or limbing and bucking trees. Moving on to the STIHL roll-o-matic bar. So the bar and chain combinations we use here at the Redlands Fire Department, primarily we use a 20-inch bar with a Rapco carbide tip terminator chain. This is a .404 rim sprocket, and this is a 20-inch bar here. Other bar combinations we use, like is displayed on this saw here. This is off of our OES Type 3. This is a 32-inch bar with a 3/8 pitch rim sprocket and a wood cutting chain, primarily for wildland incidents. Located underneath the saw here, we have our chain catcher. This prevents the chain from cutting into your leg if that chain is thrown off the bar or it does break. Also, we have our oiler screw, oil adjustment screw, located on the bottom of the head unit here. That is our nomenclature and specifications. As far as operations of this saw, we're always going to make sure that we have proper PPE on, including that eye protection. We're going to make sure that our saw is full of fuel. We're always going to ensure that our STIHL quick stop chain brake is engaged. Now, from a cold start, we are going to make sure that our decompression switch is pressed, as well as our throttle depressed and we're gonna move our master control lever all the way down to full choke. Now there's a few different ways we can start this saw. We can start it on the ground with our foot between the rear handguard here, as well as squeeze between our thighs, pulling the pull cord across our body. We do not drop start saws here at the Redlands Fire Department. That is a safety violation. So once we've pulled the saw until the saw has kicked over once, we're going to then adjust it up to half choke. We're going to press the decompression switch again, and doing the same starting procedure, we're going to pull start the saw until it does fire. Now we do have to blip the throttle to release the throttle from full throttle to idle and allow the saw to warm up. Once that saw is warm, we're going to pick up the saw, we're going to check lubrication of the bar. We're going to run the saw, aiming the tip of the bar at the ground, looking for a nice clean fin of bar oil to ensure that our bar is being lubricated properly. Once that's done, our saw is ready to go to work. Now, proper shutdown procedure. We're going to allow our saw to idle all the way down. We're going to place our quick stop chain brake on, allow it to idle for approximately 30 seconds more, and turn it off. That is our proper operating procedures. Now, as far as maintenance goes, we're going to make sure that our saw is clean, and we're going to check the overall condition of the saw after every use. We're going to refuel and refill the bar oil after every use. This is a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning that every time we refill the fuel, we will have to replace the bar oil. Then we're going to check the overall the condition of the bar, the chain, the power unit here, and the air filter. So, our bar, we're looking for any curves, any bends, any mushrooming of the bar. If there is any mushrooming, we're going to go ahead and file that mushrooming off. Then, after every major breakdown, we're going to rotate that bar. Our chain, we're inspecting our chain for any broken or missing cutters. We're looking for 3 in a row or 6 total per chain. If we do find that, we're going to place that chain out of service. Moving on to our head unit itself, we're going to go ahead and break down and remove the bar from the power head unit, and we're going to expose it all the way down to the needle cage bearing to lubricate it. First thing, we want to make sure that we refill the fuel as well as the bar oil. Now, the older saws, it will take a scrunch to loosen that up. Loosen both caps. Now, this is a 1-to-1 fuel to bar oil ratio. Every time we refuel this saw, we will also refill the bar oil. This ensures equal lubrication of the bar while we're running the saw. Disclaimer, we never ever want to run out of bar oil before we run out of fuel. If we run out of bar oil first, it will damage our bar. We'd rather our saw run out of fuel and die. So once that's done, we're going to move on and we're going to inspect the rollmatic bar, the chain, the power unit itself, and the air filter. So the bar, we're looking for any bends, any curves, any mushrooming of the bar. The mushrooming will be primarily on the tips of the bar, and that's caused from inertia and when the metal heats up, if it gets too hot. If we do have some mushrooming, we're gonna need to file that down. Then we're gonna check our chain. We're checking our chain for any broken or missing cutters. We're checking for 3 in a row or 6 total. If we do find that, we will need to place this chain out of service and get a replacement. Once we replace the chain, we're gonna check it for tightness as well. Now we're gonna go ahead and remove the bar and chain from the saw itself. We're gonna loosen the chain tensioner as well as remove the bar nuts. being sure to keep those bar nuts together with our cover plate nice and neatly organized. Now, since we loosened the chain tensioner, we can now remove the bar and chain combination. We're going to place this in a clean area. Since we're no longer working around the bar, we can remove our gloves. The next step is to remove the E-clip to free up our washer and our sprocket. We're going to do so by placing your small flat-headed screwdriver just at the back of the E-clip and prying outwards, making sure that we maintain control of that clip. At this point, we never ever want to spread this E-clip apart and then pinch it back on. This will compromise the integrity of the E-clip and it will cause catastrophic failure. We're gonna place that in the cover plate as well. All of our parts should go back in the cover plate so they stay together. We're gonna remove the cover washer. Now, we're gonna remove the sprocket. This is that 0.404 rim sprocket that we've talked about. That is the pitch right there, 0.404. Now, we have to release our STIHL quick stop chain brake to remove the clutch cover. We've exposed our needle cage bearing. Now we're gonna place neutral gloves on and we're gonna lubricate the needle cage bearing with white lithium grease. We'd like to make a note that this saw has already been broken down and cleaned. After a fire, this will be encased in debris from either falling a tree or from cutting on a roof. So it is a good thing to also use neutral gloves to prevent carcinogens from getting into your hands. Now, to remove this debris, we can use a rag to remove the majority of the chunks. Also, a fine bristle brush with maybe a solvent such as gasoline. We'll never ever will use water because this could damage the saw. Also, we can remove the oil cover plate and we're gonna clean behind it. Now, for those hard to reach nooks and crannies, we're gonna clean it with compressed air. And this will be done after every major use. Now I've made it onto our needle cage bearing. So to pack that needle cage bearing with grease, we're gonna take our fingers with our white lithium grease here, put a fair amount in the center of a gloved hand. Notice the bearings, how they are cylindrical in shape. We're gonna roll those in the grease, packing them, if you will, with grease, holding it by the open ends. Once you've made it all the way around, you could do a single dab right here before you replace it, and then place it back on the clutch assembly. Now I'm gonna go ahead and remove my gloves. And then we're gonna reverse the operation. So if you notice, there is a groove here in the clutch drum that operates the oiling system. So we need to take special consideration into lining that up with the line that goes right in that notch right there. Now it's hard to see, you won't be able to see it on camera, but I found it right there and it should slide right in. Boom. And you'll hear it click and pop into place, and then it will spin freely. So at this point, to keep things still, You can also relock the quick stop chain brake. We're gonna place our .404 rim sprocket back on, as well as our washer. We're gonna replace our E-clip. Now, if you're doing this in the field or on a fire line, take special care when placing this back on, because if it jumps out of your hand, it's gone forever. Now, we will take a special note to the design of this E-clip. Now, there is a curved side and a flat side. So the curve is almost like the crowning of the road. It's ever so slight, and on the bottom you can feel it's completely flat with an edge. Now, that flat side needs to be towards the saw. The curved side will be up. I'm going to place that on. And now it's back together. So components of a chain, these little shark fins underneath, those are called drive links. These, almost like arrows pointing towards my finger right at the tip, these are called rakers. Now, this Rapco Terminator chain has dual rakers, and they set the depth of these cutting teeth right here. So if you notice, this is the cutting portion of the chain. These are carbide tip. You see the tip slightly different, that is carbide tip. These are the cutters that we're looking to inspect when we're looking for broken or missing cutters. So we're gonna go along our chain, go all the way around. We're looking for no more than 3 in a row or 6 total broken or missing cutters. Now, these carbide tip chains, if they are damaged and out of service, they will go to a saw shop for repair. And when you do ever need a new chain, you need 3 things. You'll need the pitch, which is .404, gauge, which is .063, and number of drive links, which this one, and it will show on every bar, 66. 66. So pitch, gauge, number of drivers, and lastly, the length of the bar. So now that we've determined that our Rapco Terminator chain is in service, we're gonna place it back on the rollmatic bar. The easiest way to do that is to hold it up, straight up and down, and just let the chain fall. Now, we do have our safety gloves on. Once it's fallen onto the bar, you're gonna pinch it with the gloved hand and hold it like so. We can pull tension in the back and attach those drivers to our .404 rim sprocket. Now, if needed, we can loosen up our tensioning screw until it drops into place. Here, like so. Now, we're taking special note to aim our rakers and our cutters moving forward, so it rotates forward off the saw. I'm gonna tension my chain slightly to hold my bar in place while I replace my cover and my bar nuts. Now we just want these hand tight while we adjust the tension of the chain. While adjusting the tension of the chain, it's important to make a special note. We want the bar to be under load. So we're gonna lift the saw off of the ground and hold it by the rear handle so the tip is touching the ground. We're gonna adjust in quarter turn increments. Right is tight, left is loose. To where you think it's going to be tight. Also take note, when you tighten down your bar nuts, this will slightly tighten the chain. So we are going to tighten these down by hand. And we only use slight pressure to tighten this down. On the tip, I like to place my pinky at the end and use that as a gauge of just firm and tight. We're gonna now check our tension. Now we want it to be able to be as tight as it can, but we don't want it to be so tight where when we pull on the chain, it moves the saw. So we want it to be right at that threshold where it's about to move the saw and then doesn't, as a rule of thumb. But there are other ways to check tension as well. Also, we're gonna make a special note that once we do a deep cleaning and deep breakdown of the saw, we do want to flip the bar every time and rotate the bar to ensure even wear. Moving on from there, we're going to remove and clean our pull cord cover. Now I will need a Torx bit to remove these 4 screws. Now note, these are different lengths, so I do like to keep these in the position of where I took them out. For example, top right corner, I place it in the top right corner. Bottom right corner, I place it in the bottom right corner. We aren't really doing this one in the field. This is in a controlled environment, so we don't have to worry about losing our screws. And then we're going to slowly and carefully remove our pull cord cover. We're going to expose our cooling fins here. We are going to clean this out with compressed air, making sure not to damage the magneto. Also, this is the inside of our pull cord cover. We can access this to repair a damaged pull cord, say it frayed or broke off. We access it here and we can make our repairs. So also we can wipe down the inside, and we're gonna clean the cooling fins as well as the cover plate itself, inside and out. This could get filled with debris and sawdust. And we're gonna replace it the same way we accessed it. Great. Now that this is done, we're gonna move on to our final process of maintenance. We're gonna go ahead and break down our air filter. So before we access our air box here, we want to take special consideration and turn the choke all the way on by pushing down. This closes off the carburetor and prevents dirt and debris from getting inside while we're cleaning it. This is our air box here. We can loosen this screw. It should be only hand tight. If not, feel free to use your scrunch to loosen that. We're going to remove that and expose our air filter here. Now, as I talked about before, this is that felt outer layer. We can remove that. Now we want to use compressed air, as well as we can hit it on a clean surface to remove any debris. We want to take special consideration when using compressed air to blow the felt from the inside out and not vice versa, because this will damage the felt. Once that's done, we're going to place it to the side. We're going to move on to our metal mesh with a plastic frame. Now we can use compressed air on this one as well, primarily blowing from the inside out, but in this one we can use warm running water and mild detergent, cleaning from the inside out as well. Note that there is a fine paper layer on the inside, and this will take some time to dry. But if you hit it too aggressively, it will damage the paper and you will have to get a new air filter. So once that's done, allow it all to air dry and you can place it back together. And per manufacturer recommendation, the use of water is always secondary to the use of compressed air when cleaning the air filter. We're going to place it back on the saw until it clicks into place. We'll replace our cover, screw it hand tight, and that completes maintenance. For operations, I want to make sure that I'm wearing my safety equipment, my helmet, my eye protection, my ear protection. My gloves. Now for structure fire operations, I'm going to be in full turnouts, including bunker pants. In a wildland fire environment, I'm going to be utilizing chainsaw chaps, as well as in a training environment, I could utilize either. So first things first, my STIHL quick stop chain brake is activated. The two approved starting methods is between the thighs, pulling across your body, or on the ground with your back foot through the rear grab handle and pulling it this way. We do not drop start chainsaws, meaning we drop the saw and pull the cord like this. This is a safety violation. So going through from here on out, we're going to depress the throttle trigger interlock and throttle trigger all the way down and adjust our master control lever to full choke, and as well compress our decompression switch. Staying on the ground, I am going to pull the saw until it kicks over. It did kick over on the first try. Now I'm going to adjust it to half choke and hit that decompression switch again. Now because I did start it on the ground the first time, I will show you the other method. Holding it between your legs, pulling it across your body. Now drop master control lever to off. And that is the 4-point on the STIHL MS660 chainsaw that we use on our frontline fire engines and fire truck here at Redlands Fire Department. Thank you for watching.